Chapter 2. The Betrayal. The kitchen suddenly felt too bright, too clinical under the fluorescent lights, like an operating room where something vital was about to be excised. Zaph stood frozen, watching Ted fumble with the bottles, the glass clinking together with sounds that reminded him of wind chimes before a storm. "If she tries anything, it's okay. Just go with it." The words replayed in his mind, carrying implications that his alcohol-fogged brain struggled to process. Was this some kind of test? A joke he wasn't getting? Or something darker, more calculated? "You all right?" Ted asked, glancing over his shoulder. His expression had shifted to neutral, as if he hadn't just suggested something that had turned Zaph's evening sideways. The transition was so complete that for a moment, Zaph wondered if he'd imagined the entire exchange. "Yeah, fine." Zaph grabbed a beer, the cold glass anchoring him to reality. The digital clock on the microwave read 11:43 p.m. Less than 20 minutes until the new year, 1999, the last full year of the millennium, if you were being technical about it. Time marching forward, dragging him into a future that suddenly seemed much less certain than it had just minutes ago. "Come on," Ted said, hoisting a tray laden with drinks. "Almost midnight." They returned to the living room, where furniture had been pushed aside to create a makeshift dance floor. The stereo was playing Prince's 1999. Obvious but fitting. The bass line throbbed through the floorboards, vibrating up through Zaph's feet like a second heartbeat. Sue was nowhere to be seen. Mary sat on the sofa, her cheeks flushed pink in a way that might have been attractive under different circumstances. She avoided Zaph's eyes as he entered, focusing instead on accepting a fresh glass of wine from Ted, her fingers lingering on his for a fraction too long during the exchange. The three of them sat talking and laughing, though Zaph noticed his wife's laughter sounded slightly forced, higher pitched than normal, a strangled, nervous sound that he'd heard before, when she was lying. The minutes crawled by, stretching and contracting unpredictably as the alcohol distorted Zaph's perception of time. Mary and Ted kept exchanging glances when they thought he wasn't looking, quick, furtive things that made his stomach tighten into knots. Outside, distant fireworks began to pop and whistle, premature celebrations of the coming year. Each explosion seemed to echo inside Zaph's skull, matching the pounding of his pulse. "Hey," Ted said suddenly, setting down his drink with deliberate care. "Sue's calling for you, Zaph." Zaph frowned, head tilted like a dog hearing an unfamiliar sound. "I don't hear anything." Mary touched his arm, her fingers lingering a beat too long. There was something predatory in her touch, something knowing. "She needs you, babe." Down the hallway. The hairs on the back of Zaph's neck stood at attention. Something about their expressions, too casual, too rehearsed, sent warning signals flashing through his mind. But the alcohol had dulled his reactions, his thoughts moving like sludge through frozen pipes. "All right," he said, standing unsteadily. "I'll see what she wants." The hallway seemed to elongate before him, a trick of perspective that reminded him of those nightmares where you run and run, but never get anywhere. The walls pressed in slightly, the family photos watching his progress with dead, glossy eyes. The carpet muffled his footsteps, creating an eerie silence broken only by the distant sounds of music from the living room and water running. The sound became clearer as he approached the end of the hall, the unmistakable patter of a shower or bath. A door stood slightly ajar, a thin ribbon of amber light spilling onto the carpet like liquid gold. Zaph approached slowly, each step heavier than the last, a sense of dread building within him like pressure before a storm. Something about this felt staged, orchestrated. He paused at the threshold, one hand pressed against the doorframe to steady himself. The master bedroom was dimly lit by a single bedside lamp, casting long shadows across a king-size bed with a burgundy comforter that reminded Zaph of dried blood. The bathroom door within was closed, steam escaping through the gap beneath it, the sound of running water now obvious. Unsure what to do, Zaph sank onto the edge of the bed. His head was spinning, not just from the drinks, but from the growing suspicion that he was being manipulated in some way he couldn't fully comprehend. A pawn being maneuvered across a board where he couldn't see all the pieces. The bathroom door opened, releasing a cloud of fragrant steam into the bedroom. Sue emerged through the mist like an apparition, wearing nothing but a silk robe that clung to her damp skin like a lover's hands. Her hair was wet, darkened to the color of old mahogany, dripping tiny rivulets down her neck and disappearing beneath the collar of her robe. She feigned surprise when she saw him, clutching the robe tighter around herself in a gesture that managed to emphasize rather than conceal her curves. "Oh, what are you doing here?" Zaph blinked, trying to clear his vision. The room seemed to pulse slightly at the edges, reality becoming as fluid as the steam that swirled around them. "They said you called me." "I didn't call anyone." Sue's head tilted to one side, studying him with an expression that was far from innocent, the look of a predator assessing weakened prey. "But since you're here..." She let the sentence trail off, heavy with implication. "I should go," Zaph said, though he made no move to stand. His limbs felt leaden, weighted with something more than just alcohol. "No," Sue replied, her voice dropping to a sultry murmur. "Stay. Come lay with me. You look tired." Zaph hesitated, alarm bells ringing distantly in his mind. But there was something about the way she said it, practiced, rehearsed, that made him feel like he was following a script someone else had written, like an actor who had forgotten he was in a play until the moment his cue arrived. He lay down on top of the covers, keeping a careful distance as she slid beneath the sheets beside him. The mattress dipped under their combined weight, gravity pulling them slightly toward the center despite his efforts to maintain separation. They talked for a few minutes, meaningless words that drifted into the shadows of the room and disappeared. Zaph was acutely aware of the warmth radiating from Sue's body, the subtle scent of her shampoo mixing with something muskier, more primal. Then her hand was on his leg, sliding upward with clear intent. Zaph jerked away as if burned, nearly toppling off the edge of the bed. "Whoa, what are you doing?" Her robe had parted further, revealing a stretch of pale skin that seemed to glow in the dim light. "It's okay," she said softly, her voice a practiced purr. "Don't worry." "No," Zaph said firmly, though his heart was hammering against his ribs like a trapped animal. "This is wrong. We're both married." Something cold and calculating entered Sue's eyes, transforming her face into a mask that revealed the woman beneath the friendly neighbor persona. "Well," she said with deliberate cruelty, "what do you think they're doing out there all alone?" The words hit Zaph with the force of a physical blow. Time seemed to stop, the room tilting sideways as his brain struggled to process what she was suggesting. Mary and Ted? His wife and his boss? "What are you talking about?" he managed, but even as he asked, pieces were falling into place with sickening clarity. Ted's strange comment earlier, Mary's excitement about the party, the way she disappeared, the knowing glances. "Don't be naive," Sue said, her voice hardening like cement setting. "This isn't the first time, you know. Ted likes bringing home new friends." She practically spat the last word, making it clear that friends meant something entirely different in their vocabulary. The betrayal was like ice water in his veins, shocking him into sudden, painful sobriety. A rage he hadn't felt in years began to build, starting as a small ember in his chest and growing rapidly into a roaring flame that threatened to consume him from the inside out. It was a familiar anger, the same white-hot fury that had gotten him into trouble more than once before, the same dangerous heat that had forced them to leave their previous town in a hurry. "I see," he heard himself say, as if from a great distance. His voice sounded foreign to his own ears, too calm, too controlled for the inferno raging inside him. Sue must have mistaken his tone for acceptance, because she smiled, a predatory curl of her lips that transformed her face into something almost reptilian in its cold calculation. She untied her robe completely, letting it fall open to reveal her naked body in the amber light. The sight didn't arouse him as it might have under different circumstances. Instead, it fueled his rage like gasoline on a fire. She wasn't a woman desiring him in this moment. She was part of a mechanism designed to humiliate him, to reduce his marriage to something cheap and tawdry. "Come here," she said, reaching for him with practiced confidence. In that moment, Zaph's mind fractured, splitting into two distinct parts like a cell undergoing mitosis. One part, The rational, civilized part that he'd been trying to nurture since the incident that had forced their move, was screaming at him to walk away, to find Mary and confront her, to leave this house and never return. But another part, a darker part he rarely acknowledged, saw an opportunity. Not for pleasure, he was far beyond that now, but for revenge. A cold, calculated payback that matched what was being done to him.